My dad had a Playboy left out at age 5, and it's affected almost every choice I made for the rest of my life.
This is how in 2019, Kanye West admitted to being a porn addict. He's been accused of and even filmed subjecting staff to porn and even his own homemade videos in the workplace. Plus, he's not the only celebrity that's opened up about their struggles with porn. This, plus the social media hype about porn addiction, got me thinking, is porn addiction real? How bad is it? What does the science say? Here's what I found. Before doing the research for this video, I thought that porn addiction was mostly social media hype, with plenty of misinformation out there. But what I found surprised me. The field of research into pornography addiction is complex. Porn is ubiquitous, used by between 50 to 99% of men and 30 to 86% of women. It is increasingly common starting in people's teenage years, but can porn actually be an addiction? This hasn't been formally agreed by experts, but this lack of consensus has allowed different research groups to come up with new models for exploring porn as an addictive behavior so they can begin to understand it. They're pretty much unified by approaching it in a similar way to other problematic behaviors within the addiction spectrum, but which don't involve substances, like gambling, but particularly for our digital world, such as problematic use of video games or social media, and yes, porn. Porn addiction is often studied alongside, or as a manifestation of, sex addiction. Under one proposed model of porn addiction, porn users can fall into several types of use. Normal recreational use of porn for curiosity or entertainment. At-risk use, using porn to regulate negative feelings, but not being addicted, compulsively, or experiencing negative consequences as a result. And finally, compulsive use, with people showing negative consequences and psychological distress related to its use. A 2023 study of 1,001 French adults found that 66.5% of adult porn consumers were non-problematic, 29.9% were at risk, and 3.6% were problematic users of porn. People falling into the problematic porn use profile exhibited increased addictive mechanisms such as mood changes, cravings, loss of control, and excessive time spent on porn, withdrawal, tolerance, and relapse. Interestingly, there was an increased rate of ADHD and OCD-like behaviors. In fact, what surprised me the most during this deep dive was the link between ADHD, compulsive behaviors, and porn addiction. ADHD symptoms are predictive of the problematic use of porn. People with ADHD often hyper-focus and lose control, becoming completely absorbed in screen-based activities, leading to an escalation in the use of porn without limit. They are also much more likely to become bored and seek new sensations, features we also see in problematic use of porn. People with ADHD might use porn to improve their mood, and the use of porn is linked to escapism and mood modification. There is also a link with depression and anxiety, not surprisingly. Going back to Kanye West, he's been open about having OCD as well as bipolar disorder. Twitter meltdowns aside, his behavior and porn addiction makes more sense when you learn about the link between these mental health conditions, compulsive behaviors, and potentially addictive behaviors. But how does this addiction work? Diving deeper, neuroscientific studies support the idea that the underlying neural processes in pornography addiction are similar to those in substance addiction. Repeated exposure to porn disrupts normal sensory signaling in multiple brain structures, including the reward circuitry, a hallmark of addiction. These changes are also linked to a loss of control and hypersexuality. There is also evidence suggesting that excessive and compulsive porn use can even interfere with working memory performance, similar to substance misuse. MRI brain scans have found the brains of porn addicts to be comparable to people with substance dependence. Porn addiction is real, but is it as bad as substance abuse? How addictive is it really? Research backs the idea that porn use, like other behaviors such as playing video games, can become problematic, and that this problematic use is characterized by similar addictive mechanisms to substance misuse, with the important caveat that this doesn't affect everyone. Some people seem to be more at risk than others. After all, if up to 99% of men and 86% of women are engaging in a behavior that has addictive potential, wouldn't we be seeing more problems? More people reporting addiction? In that 2023 study of French porn consumers, only 3.6% were problematic porn users. Using porn regularly is not enough to say that you are addicted to it. You can watch porn every day and not be addicted. So while porn addiction shares similarities with substance addiction in terms of changes in the brain's reward circuitry, which can lead to a loss of control, cravings, intolerance, and other symptoms associated with addiction. For porn use to actually become porn addiction, something else needs to be going on. Most people do not experience porn cravings or porn withdrawal. The clue is that porn addiction involves psychological factors and social factors. The person using porn needs to be at risk. What puts you at risk of problematic porn use? Stuff like already using porn for escapism or to improve your mood, being predisposed to addictive mechanisms, and often in an environment or situation where use of porn is associated with negative psychosocial effects. As I mentioned before, studies have found a link between ADHD and compulsive sexual behaviors, including porn addiction. Going further, researchers have found that men with ADHD and an insecure attachment style, so people that often experience difficulty in their close relationships, are also more likely to use porn in an unhealthy way. Studies have also found that depression, when porn is used to escape negative emotions, is a positive predictor of porn use becoming problematic. This might sound crazy, but your personality and personal moral compass also plays a role. If you are particularly religious, consider yourself to be a highly moral person, hold yourself to high standards, or exhibit perfectionism, then you are much more likely to perceive your use of porn as problematic, which creates the problem. What do I mean? Shame and stigma around your own sexuality and sexual expression can create negative effects for your mental health and relationships with others, and contribute to the perception that your porn use is problematic. Internet searches for porn are highest in places that are more religious and more traditionally conservative, and it appears that repression of thoughts to do with porn or sex make those thoughts and compulsions more intense. So loosen up. But how harmful is porn? What if you're not addicted to it? Is it still harming you? Let's look at the effects of porn in terms of physically, how addictive it is, psychologically, and whether or not you're addicted to it. In terms of addictive potential, while porn still has some effect on the brain, and this is still under research, it seems from the scientific literature that the addictive nature of porn needs to be potentiated, or made worse, by having underlying psychological problems. You don't need porn to live. And in fact, until the invention of the printing press, only the upper classes had access to erotica in the form of art. And about 99% of men and almost 90% of women are using porn, but only about 3 to 4% experience problematic and excessive use of porn. It seems that porn is on balance less addictive than substances like cocaine. For comparison, and this might surprise you, about 20% of regular cocaine users become diagnosed addicts. Compared to addictive substances, porn's physical effects seem relatively minor, although research is early days. Think about porn affecting impulsivity or working memory. It might also be hard for researchers to separate the effects of porn use from the effects of masturbation and regular orgasms, which are known to be beneficial, even for cancer. However, porn addiction seems to have a much larger psychological and social component. For the majority of people, porn is rarely harmful, but for those who are addicted and tend to have underlying psychological issues, their addiction has a significantly negative impact on their lives and relationships, including feelings of isolation and relationship breakdowns. Porn addiction requires holistic treatment that they're unlikely to get due to the stigma around private sexual habits. Porn addicts usually experience simultaneous compulsion to use porn and deep shame from using it. But what if you're not addicted to porn? What if you're not at risk of addiction to it? You can still experience negative psychological effects, but these are extremely subtle and play out over years. What am I talking about? So, the idea that porn leads to sex crimes such as sexual assault and violence has been discredited. But what I am talking about is stuff like body insecurities, which lead women to seek breast operations and labiaplasty surgery, and men to seek penis surgery or experiment with dangerous penis extension techniques like jelqing. There are theories around the impact of porn on gender roles and identity as well. However, how much porn might cause this, rather than being a symptom of a societal problem, is being debated. Think of porn as a possible way for unrealistic body standards and different sexual or gender-specific biases to get into your subconscious, with the important caveat that it depends on what porn you watch. For example, research suggests a distinction between the impact of violent porn versus non-violent porn, with violent, degrading porn being associated with potential aggression, but not for non-violent porn. This might surprise you, but porn could actually be beneficial for some people, such as sexual minorities seeking to explore and affirm their identities during formative periods. Most research focuses on straight people though. The effect of porn on relationships depends on the sex of the person watching porn, as well as whether it is watched alone or with your partner, not to mention your partner's attitudes towards it. When porn use is discussed openly, rather than secretly, with a partner who also sees it as a form of sexual expression, it is more likely to have a positive effect on a relationship, or at least not have a negative effect. However, if your partner views it as a form of infidelity, or develops anxiety over whether their partner still desires them sexually, then it's highly likely to damage the relationship. You have to understand the meanings that you attach to porn, and whether that is compatible with your partner. Of course, if like Kanye West, you're showing colleagues porn videos, and videos of you having sex with your wife, that's highly likely to damage your interpersonal relationships. Don't do that. How harmful porn is will also depend on what you're actually watching. Violent or extreme stuff is probably not going to be good for you, and may be linked to aggressive behaviour. But non-violent porn showing respectful and egalitarian behaviour does not show this association. This is a very early days area of research though. You have to be mindful about how porn makes you feel and how you're using it, and especially if what arouses you needs to be more extreme over time, as that is a sign of tolerance, a hallmark of the early days of addiction. But if you're thinking about reducing your porn consumption, you might be shocked to learn that movements like nofap and semen retention are actually based on lies and cause more damage than good. To find out more, watch this next.